to another episode of Come Over for Dinner. I'm so glad you're joining us today. I have a very special guest. Many of my listeners may have actually heard of her, possibly have listened to her podcast, Femina. Welcome, Nancy.
Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you for being here. She is a pastor's wife, a mom of 3 grown children who have given her 18 grandchildren. The 18th is due in December.
Pretty impressive work they've done.
This is very impressive. So, yes, in December, we're expecting number 18, which is very fun. And she has also written lots of books on Christian living. So she is just a source of wisdom and inspiration when it comes to hospitality because she started hosting Sabbath dinners a very long time ago when...
1997.
Oh, before your kids had kids, right?
Right. Well, Becca and Ben were engaged.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when Becca's the oldest. She's actually done a recording here or a podcast. This is her oldest daughter, Becca, was engaged to Ben, and y'all decided to start doing a Sabbath dinner Saturday night.
Yes.
And then it's just continued for...
It's still going, but I'm not in charge of it anymore.
Well, I'm sure that
I'm
you
really
still...
glad. I handed the torch off.
Handed the torch.
It's just God arranged all of that.
Well, you know, when the family expanded to the 18th grandchild, you probably needed more than 2 hands to pull it off.
When we handed it off, it was because we were moving out of our house into Grandpa Jim's house to take care of him. And so we couldn't.
The space
anymore.
Wasn't there.
And Luke and Rachel moved into our house so they could build their own, and they just stepped right into Sabbath. They were super ready for that, totally equipped for that.
So the space was there,
God
they had the kids.
God arranged it.
It's wonderful.
So they're still hosting it.
Yes, and it's such a blessing. I mean, the kids, when they talk about Sabbath dinner, it's their favorite time of the week.
Well,
they look forward to it so much.
It's a very sweet time.
They get to see cousins and aunts and uncles and friends and Nana and Papa. And
we have lots of guests. I mean, we always did. We just sort of collected people. One week I was at the grocery store and I saw a couple of boys that looked like they were having trouble finding their way around. They were Asian.
Okay.
Maybe Korean.
Okay.
And I went over to chat with them and I ended up inviting them to come to Sabbath dinner. And they came.
They came. Did they like the food you served?
Oh, they were great. They were lovely. Yes.
That's great. Yeah. And, probably a home-cooked meal. If they were college students and far away from home, that was probably the highlight of their semester.
Right. They were weighing the produce and then doing the math, I think, to divide up how much each of them would pay for each
apple.
Yeah, pretty much.
When we go home, we're cutting it in half, and you pay half, and I pay half. And
so anyway, it was quite delightful.
That's a funny story. So when you have guests, obviously you're not in charge of hosting Sabbath dinner anymore, but I know you still host guests. What do you think of? What menu is one of your favorite menus to serve?
Okay. Well, yes, I do have a lot of favorites. So it's fall here. It's just started. Autumn just started. So one of my favorites, I brought that recipe for you.
Okay.
To put together in the fall or winter is a beef stew.
Oh, I love beef stew.
So this one is unusual because it goes in the oven for 1 hour and 15 minutes.
Okay.
And it's delicious. So one time, Doug and I were at church or on the way to church, and we had a guest pastor to preach that day. And I said, honey, is somebody having him to lunch after church? I mean, he's going to preach 2 services. He said, I don't know. I said, can you find out? Because
he's going to be hungry after preaching 2 sermons.
I know. And what a terrible thing if no one had, planned to feed him dinner.
Poor guy.
So
might not sign up
God
again.
was prompting me, you think? And so Doug casually asked him before church, if he had plans. And he said, no, he didn't. So I left after the first service. I usually stay for both. I just took off. I knew what I needed for this stew. And so I just hit the grocery store, went home. And when they got there, it was all ready to go.
Okay, that sounds amazing.
This is a really great recipe. I prefer making it when I have lots of time. And for Sabbath, this recipe serves 6 to 8.
Okay.
So you can imagine how many times
how many pots you're
spreading it out.
making.
So.
Well, 6 to 8 is a perfect size for just a typical family, but doubling, tripling. I mean, I've made 4 recipes of stew before in a giant pot, and it turns out just the same.
Right. Well, the cool thing about this one, it's this 3 formula.
Okay.
So it's 3 pounds of cubed meat.
Okay.
And the cool thing about this is you can use lamb, pork, or beef chuck. So I've always made it with beef chuck. And she provides the recipes for each meat, whatever, and several different variations.
Nice.
And it's one recipe, and she includes like all the herbs and spices and everything for each
variation,
one,
depending on what meat you want to use.
But because I'm married to a beef lover,
I have to admit that's my favorite too. So he's in good company.
So it's 3 pounds of meat cubed.
Okay.
3 onions, 3 garlic cloves, 3 tablespoons of flour, and 3 cups of liquid.
Wow. That's easy to remember. I could memorize that one. It is.
So you toss the meat with oil and salt and pepper, and then you brown it at a pretty high heat. Sear it on 2 sides.
Flavor and the moisture.
Yeah, so you don't crowd the pan. You sear it, and if you're doing a lot of meat, it sort of gets, sometimes, I confess, I crowded the pan because I would have 2 large Dutch ovens trying to get all, in batches and everything.
Sure.
But anyway, if you can do it ahead, it's great. Then you take the meat out, and then you add your liquids. Now, wait a minute. Let me look here. I don't want to say it wrong. You take the meat out. Okay. You add your onions and garlic and a little oil if you need it. Then you add your spices and herbs. Then you whisk in the flour and the liquid. And the liquid in this case is 2 cups of chicken broth and 1 cup of red wine.
It sounds delicious.
It is. Then the really cool thing about it is then you pour that over the meat in the big Dutch oven. You put a sheet of heavy-duty foil over the pot, and you push the foil down to where it's just touching the meat. Okay? So it's a lot of foil so that it's tight around the edges, but it folds down the sides of the pan and across the top of the meat.
Okay.
And you get it boiling on your stove. And you can hear when it starts to simmer.
So do you do it in one of those disposable foil pans?
Oh, no.
What do you put
this
it in?
This is my huge Le Creuset Dutch oven. And I have 2 or 3 of those things. Okay. So I would use those.
Okay.
So then after you hear it starting to simmer in there, you take it off the burner, you put the lid on it, and you put it in a 450-degree oven.
Keeping the foil on.
Keeping the foil on with the lid on top. In a 450-degree oven. So that's super hot. So it's just going to blast, the meat. It's so, I can't even tell you how good it is. It's so tender and great. Okay. So while it's in there for an hour and 15 minutes, you steam your veg. And in this case, it's turnips and carrots.
Really?
And you dice them,
instead of potatoes.
And you just steam them. And then when it comes out of the oven, you stir those in, and then you let it just sit there and sort of collect itself for about 15 minutes.
Kind of
and you serve it over mashed potatoes.
Oh, okay. There's the potatoes. Your husband is okay with you substituting turnips for potatoes? What?
Right before you serve it, you stir in some frozen peas. And it is so wonderful.
And served over mashed potatoes would be so delicious.
But you can do all these other... So this is found in a cookbook called Perfect Recipes for Having People Over.
Okay, by Pam Anderson.
And you can see why I was taken with that title.
Yes, perfect. That just says it all. Just open the book and the perfect recipes for having people over. Yeah, so podcast is over. I'm done. Just by
and so
book.
These, the cubes are small. They're not like big, and it's so tender and delicious and flavorful. It's
do you
wonderful.
buy a chuck roast and cut it, or do you buy stew meat?
I cut it myself. Unless I'm in a real hurry. I probably that day after church did not.
You bought whatever.
I don't remember.
Potentially
but the problem with the stew meat is you still have to go over it all.
You do.
and cut off. And so I probably just bought a roast and cut it up. And it was just going to be
faster.
3 of us. So it was one roast, 3-pound roast. Chuck roast is so expensive now.
It
like
is.
everything. I'm going to make this in the near future. So I bought a couple of chuck roasts today. And one was 30% off. Yes.
Nice.
But a 3-pounder is a pretty good size. And by the time you get all the
other ingredients,
all
you
the
just
fat
have little
off,
pieces of
yeah,
meat.
yeah. But it's a no. I think they look pretty good, so they'll be a good size pieces. But when you buy the stew meat, it's all different shapes and sizes,
sizes, cuts.
Yeah.
It may not all be the roast,
so
the chuck roast you're looking for.
So sharpen your knife and get that. So that's my favorite. And then the other good thing about this cookbook, she has, when should I serve it? What should I serve with it? She lists drinks, appetizers, salads, and desserts.
That's
Whether leftovers are any
incredible.
good and how far in advance you can make it.
so there's
and
a
this
timeline
one-
as well.
Oh, yeah. This one you can make a couple days ahead. It keeps really well and it reheats beautifully. So that's why I love this cookbook. And when you turn to this page, it's just covered with spills. You can
All the
just
splatters
see
from
it.
the pot.
But these are all the different kinds you can do with that same process using ham, pork, or beef. So there you go.
Okay, if this cookbook is not on my shelf, I'm ordering this immediately.
Well,
Do you
it
like
may be-
Amazon or
it's possibly
Walmart?
out of print. I don't know because I
I'm
got
sure
it a long
Amazon
time
would
ago.
have it, or a
This
bookstore
is
online.
copyright 2005.
Okay,
But I bet you can find it.
I bet.
She did a second one, or
eBay.
maybe it's a first. It's good, but it's a one pot kind of. I like this one better.
Because it has more variety.
Yeah, it's just more for my needs,
Right.
and I'm not so inclined to do the one pot wonders as much. I mean,
Now that roast sounds like a one pot wonder. Of course,
Well-
there's mashed potatoes on the side.
Well, that's true.
That you have to make
Yeah,
in a separate
that's
pot.
true.
Does she have a recipe for mashed potatoes, or do you pick
she
your own
does. They're
favorite?
called make ahead mashed potatoes.
Oh my goodness!
She's
I
got
need
it
this
right in there.
recipe.
So when you go there, it's like this is the page. What to serve with it? This on page that. I mean, it's just a really.
It's just takes
I
the
haven't
headache out
made
of planning.
all the recipes, but I've made a lot of them, and they
And
work really
your
well
guests
for
go away
having
smiling.
people over. Yeah.
Perfect recipes for having people over by Pam Anderson.
But when I was cooking, it was running like 30 to 35 every week. So it became more difficult to make dishes like that for that size and just the cost and everything.
Sure.
But I did it. I did still do it. But it just depended on the
On the recipe
season,
and the cost.
obviously, and just how many people. Because, and the bigger my grandkids got, the more
The more they
were
eating.
like adults. Yeah.
You weren't factoring kids anymore.
Yeah, but it's so fun to feed people.
It's so fun.
It's so much fun.
It is
to
so
feed
much
people.
fun. I love feeding kids, but I especially love feeding teenagers because they
Yeah.
just growing teenagers are unlike any other genre
Well,
of
they
child.
just appreciate,
Appreciate
food,
it
don't they?
so much because
Yeah.
they're so hungry.
Yes.
And when they're full, it's
really
they're just
gratifying.
so satisfied.
Yeah, exactly.
When you consider a cut of meat, do you go to the store and look for sales and kind of think about what you're going to cook, or do you look at this sale paper when it comes out, or how do you kind of decide, what
I'm doing?
what you're doing?
I probably think about what I want to fix.
Okay.
And then I go and look. And while I'm there, if I spy some bargain, I get that for the freezer. Absolutely.
That's a great idea.
Yeah. So today,
Pre-shop.
I picked up a few things that were on sale and, to pop in the freezer. Also, it's just the two of us now. So I bought a couple of filet mignons on sale.
Ooh.
Why not?
Why not?
Why not?
I agree.
So, but I don't do that every week or
Sure.
anything. But if I
No.
see them there, it's like, okay, this is guidance.
Right. And this sounds really
Dinner for
good. Tonight's dinner is
No,
filet
it won't be
mignon.
for tonight. They're in the freezer. They're going to be in the
They're
freezer.
in the freezer
but,
for a special night.
well, yeah.
What
It's
about the book? Does it offer time savers? Well, you mentioned, or do you have any particular ones that you use that the book doesn't mention? You did mention a timeline, which is very helpful.
Yeah.
But do you have anything else?
If I was making this for a crowd, I would make it a day or two in advance. Absolutely. For sure. And I wouldn't probably steam the veg. I would just get the meat done and maybe get the veg chopped up and ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
And then, reheat the meat.
Happen at the last minute.
Yeah, steam the veg and reheat the meat and do it that way but you can do the whole thing a couple of days in advance. It just depends. I also, having a big crowd, I wouldn't do this just for 6 or 8.
Sure.
Well, I might. You never know about me.
It depends on how busy you are that day.
I love setting the table.
Ahead of time.
No, I just love setting the table
in general.
anytime. I like to make it beautiful and inviting. And so I take great pleasure in setting the table.
That is very satisfying when you look out and you're done and it's beautiful and it's just how you want it.
But then you have to let it go. When everybody sits down, okay, just come what may, we're all sitting down to eat now, and you cannot preserve the way. Especially if you have kids, and
it turns into chaos when everybody starts eating.
Yeah, but then let it go.
Don't look at it. Don't apologize for something.
No, the wine's going to get knocked over, and people are going to get up to go get something and throw their napkins. It's just going to be
a small bit of mad chaos.
But I love making a table pretty.
Do you have any tips for ways to make a table pretty?
Well, I like gathering linens over the years. Whether I like runners a lot. And on our table, because we had a lot of leaves that we could adjust the size of the table depending on how many, we outgrew it. But at any rate, so I'd have a couple of white tablecloths I could lap, sort of, because I didn't have a tablecloth for every configuration.
Right. So you might double up.
Yeah. So I could just sort of lap it over to extend all the way. It was 18 feet when it's all together.
That's a great table to have.
And then I get a runner over it. So I had a seasonal runner, a pretty, I'd get them at Pottery Barn on sale or Crate and Barrel or now Amazon, just any number of places. And just have seasonal. You've got a Christmas one. You've got. Sometimes you move on. Like, I'm done with that one. I don't want to ever see it again. Williams Sonoma. If you buy them off season, you can get some pretty good deals.
That is actually a great tip.
And then because we were feeding a lot of people, I went to white plates. I got Crate and Barrel buffet plates, and then I started collecting pressed stemware from. The 50s, 60s.
Okay.
They're really bright colored, chunky goblets.
Where did you find it when you say collecting?
Antique stores. It took me a long time to find my first one. And the reason was we had visited a family in Annapolis, Maryland when the kids were little. I think Rachel was 3. And at dinner, everybody had a different colored goblet. And they were these beautiful, all different designs, chunky, vintage goblets. And I loved that. It was so cute. So
adorable.
I looked high and low. I could not even find one. And Doug and I were in, I think, St. Louis or someplace. And we went in a big old antique store. And there it was, this goblet sitting there by itself. It's bright orange. And it's called Sun and Moon. All these different patterns have actual names. I have a book of all the different patterns that were.
What is the brand? So it's called Sun and Moon, but who is the maker?
It depends. There are all kinds of makers.
Oh, okay.
But like Sun and Moon, there's just different versions.
Okay.
And so there was that orange one sitting there. It was $30.
What?
And I thought, no, that's not going to work. And so I looked all around that antique store and I kept coming back and looking at that. And I said, Doug, he said, get it.
It's the one thing you want.
So it's my one. No, I think I have 2 orange ones, totally different pattern. But that was my first one. And then after that, I just started finding them. I have blue. I have so many colors. And sometimes I would find a whole set of them. They were not, that's the most I've ever paid for one.
Was for $30?
I think I maybe paid $30 for another one. But usually no. No.
Usually you had people a little more reasonable.
But they aren't cheap. But I started gathering and I would find them, wherever we'd go, I'd look at an antique store and search it. It's hard. And then you find one or a little set. And sometimes they're just too much and you move on.
Right.
But I have a lot now. They're all in storage.
Collection.
And then I ended up saying, okay, this is too many. And I sold some to a friend. I had a whole set of really pretty yellow. and I sold those to her. And then I have a lot of gorgeous red ones. And they
Perfect for
were on the
Christmas.
bottom, they say HF, it's the Henry Ford Museum, is where they were made in Michigan. And I have some that don't have that little stamp on the bottom, but they're really pretty. And then some of them come in smaller. So I have small, I have large.
Need to see
I have
these.
way too many.
When do they come out of
And
storage?
they're all in storage.
When the house is built.
But I just had fun. I would move around. I got a lot of, it's just like light brown, which is not my favorite color. But for Thanksgiving, they are so
perfect for
cute.
fall.
Yeah.
Because your centerpiece is going to be oranges and browns and just the
but
natural
in spring,
colors.
I don't want to see those.
No,
or
you're done
summer.
with them.
Or, yeah, no, or
So you can
Christmas. No.
rotate.
Yeah. So I got way too many. But you have to realize I was working on it for a long time.
Well, and it may not be way too many if the 18th grandchild is on the way.
No, I have way too many.
You still have way too many.
Because I have all different colors, and I use all red. Yeah, Christmas. I have plenty of red, and I use the short ones for the kids, for their toasting
so
beverage.
there's different sizes as well.
Yeah.
Very
there are.
fun. Okay,
Etsy,
I need to
you
see
can
these.
find them on Etsy.
Okay.
But, I've noticed the prices going up, so I'm glad I have mine.
Yes.
They're gorgeous. They're so fun. But anyway.
I love that idea.
This
so
was
you
not...
love setting the table. No, this is the best tip.
I love... And napkins.
And
cloth
napkins. Cloth napkins versus paper is your favorite.
Oh, yeah.
Where do you buy cloth napkins? Like, where's your go-to? Is it kind of the same places that you would buy? Like, you table runners?
Amazon. So when I was doing Sabbath, I would have... in the summer, red and white check tablecloths. And I had probably 3 dozen red and white checked napkins, and I could use those with a white tablecloth. It's kind of intense, maybe, with the checkered tablecloth and checkered napkins. So I might do white napkins. I bought a bunch down in Louisiana. Or Mississippi. Mississippi, maybe.
Was it an antique shop or a store?
A friend in Jackson told me that there was a factory in their neighborhood that made white napkins. And she ordered me a whole zillion trillion of them, and I shared a whole bunch with my girls.
So straight from the factory, you're probably getting a pretty good deal.
They were really not, yes. And they lasted me. I could bleach them, and they would go with anything. But I like using fun patterned ones. So you can get them on Amazon.
Is cotton your go-to material?
Yeah, I would say
I've gotten polyester before, and it was a mistake. It was like you couldn't, the texture was wrong.
They don't
the
wipe
material was wrong.
and the polyester ones fall on the floor.
They slide off of your clothing. Yes, they do.
So cotton.
Slide down.
I have some chambray cotton ones I got on Amazon. And I think they might be Now brand.
Okay.
Or DII on Amazon.
Okay.
Look at DII. They have Darling on Amazon.
I don't think I've seen that brand.
Lots of napkins. That's where I go.
Okay.
And if you want to get a big navy and white or blue and white check tablecloth or all kinds and runners. I like a runner because it's not as big of a commitment. And you don't always want a tablecloth. Yeah.
So that same brand, NII, they sell table runners?
It's DII.
Oh, DII.
D, capital I, capital I.
Okay.
On Amazon. And you'll just look around. It's always different. But I have a pretty runner that's chambray with the matching. And you just put that on with a white plate. Or I have some fun blue and white plates. Yeah. So I'm all for, it's so easy to wash a napkin. And I have to confess, we had boarders for several years, as you remember, college girls. I always use cloth napkins. I just use them every night. Doug and I, when we sit down, we have a cloth napkin. Unless we're on the run or, it's lunch. I use paper napkins.
Sure.
But it's not that hard, and it's just so much better than
And they're so small, you can toss them in with... Do you wash napkins by themselves, or do you toss them in with towels? Or, do you do a certain way of washing?
I had probably 3 or more dozen red ones. I could do a whole load after Sabbath.
That's true.
If you have time, to spray, but mostly I wouldn't do that. I just dump in the stain remover in the who has time to spray every single napkin? But if you have some beautiful new napkins,
you might want to spot check them.
Yeah, you might have to do that. And I toss, I tell you, those red ones, I use them so much. I had to get rid of them because they were fraying at the edges. It's like, this is no.
They were unraveling.
Yeah, but just little flowers on the table and just name tags.
Name tags.
Not name tags, but place cards.
Mm-hmm. Do you handwrite or how do you do your name tag?
Every possible
tags,
way.
Cards.
I love place cards.
Place cards.
Somebody gave me some little porcelain place cards that you write on with a black,
like an expo marker.
Yeah, and
dry erase marker.
Dry erase, and I used those for a while. But after a while, they just don't look good anymore.
They just got old. Surface needs to be redone.
Well, the surface started absorbing the black a little, but I used those for a long time. But then just you can buy. It's hard to walk in a store and find place cards, but you can order them on Amazon or you can make your own. Mm-hmm. Do whatever. For a while, Rachel would write it on the plate with whatever that wipes off.
Oh, yeah. So just
at
right
the top,
on the plate,
just right on the rim at the top. That was cute.
That's very cute.
I got my granddaughters to do it for me. Mm-hmm. But it's just nice for guests to know where to go.
Yes.
When you go in, especially if it's a large crowd, you don't know where to go. And when you get everybody's name on the table, you know how many are coming for dinner.
Mm-hmm. That's true. You make sure you have a name tag at every spot.
Yeah.
Chair for every person, unless you've forgotten to write a name tag for someone.
Well,
which I did that one time.
Well, I'm not right now, but I would just put on an extra plate.
That's a great idea.
Because somebody might show up who, number one, wasn't invited, or number two, was invited and no one told me.
Slipped your mind, or no one told you.
Yeah, it's just an extra plate, or I counted wrong.
Right.
All of the above.
Right.
So if you're going to have 25 people there, throw on an extra plate.
Throw on an extra plate. It doesn't matter if you have to take it away. And even if you do and have it on the counter, somebody may have dropped a napkin or a fork and you can easily hand them something.
Yeah. Righto.
Well, another hot tip about place cards, I printed some. I did a rehearsal dinner this past June and had quite a few. And I ran to Michael's and it wasn't quite what I wanted. And it was a little expensive. And I just was not happy with it. So I ended up Avery.com. Avery is I don't know how to describe them, but they have all kinds of templates for paper type things. Yeah. And a free template. I printed my own name cards. And I was so pleased with them. I was just tickled pink.
Well, see, and if you have the technology, go for it.
Yeah, and then used a paper cutter to cut them, where they were real precise. And it was just so easy. And for a huge crowd, and this, of course, would have to be planned ahead, especially if you're doing a big event. But I did it far enough in advance that I had time, to print and put in all the names and cut them. And it was actually far cheaper than paying a printing place or going and buying them. Yeah. And then you still had to print them, like you're just buying blanks.
Yeah, you'd have to train me on how to do it on my computer, but
it took me far too long. I would be embarrassed to say how long it took me to figure it out the first time. Yeah. The second time, I think I could get better and faster. But the first one, I was like, oh my word, I'm so glad I'm doing this ahead of time.
Well, I would call to see if any granddaughters wanted to come over and help. And they would set the table. They would do the place card. They would really help me out.
Yeah. So, yep. Like many hands makes light work. Oh, yeah. Is that the saying?
Plus it's fun.
And it's fun. Everybody has a great time together. What is your best prep tip when you're having people over?
I think I gave you some of them.
You gave me
Set
the
the table
ones.
ahead of time.
Okay.
The other tip is have cute aprons.
Oh, okay.
Because I have lots of aprons, and most of them are in storage. But
they're coming out soon.
I think I have 5 at our house right now because
you do have a lot.
Because I love an apron and not an old ratty, dirty looking thing, but something really cute and seasonal. Now, I don't buy all these. They've been gifts over the years. Oh yeah. I have some really cute fall ones. And Rachel recently got me a wonderful really nice heavy-duty apron. It says Nana embroidered on it.
Nice.
And has great pockets. It's hot pink. I mean, it's really cute.
That's perfect.
But I like to be in an apron. It's like, okay, I have my apron on. I'm ready to go. I've got my hair pulled back. I'm in the kitchen. My sleeves rolled up. Okay, let's hit it.
Right.
And then if it gets dirty, I can change it into a cute seasonal one before the guests arrive, so they know who's in the kitchen, you know.
They know who the cook is.
Yes. But
who to praise and who to blame.
Yeah, and I would probably take it off for dinner. But I'm just saying, it's cute enough. I could leave it on if I wanted. Not that I would, but I'd probably have.
But it's just almost like an accessory.
A pretty apron, yes. And not a filthy, weird, old, ratty thing.
No. That would be.
So it's a good gift item. Mm-hmm. And if your kids need ideas,
then
and the same
something they could buy you.
The same places you can find the napkins, you can find really cute aprons all the time.
And you know, those
on
stores,
Amazon,
I know you mentioned seasonal, like Christmas, Thanksgiving, you know, after season, they're clearancing things immediately. But a lot of times, just because they're replacing and wanting new stock on the shelves or online, but especially if you have the store nearby, if you go in store, they discount it so deep because they want it gone so that the new, brand new stuff can have the spotlight. Yeah. So, great idea.
Well, and I've made aprons before. You can do that. I've even found them at Goodwill. I mean, you can find napkins and runners. Maybe not. I don't know. It depends on where you live. I don't
Some
see
Goodwills
them.
are definitely amazing, and some you really have to pick through. It probably does depend on your area.
I've never found one at Goodwill. I have bought an apron at Goodwill, but
wash it, it's good as new. Let's go.
It was like brand new. It was so cute. Yeah.
Well, you know, at Goodwill, people donate so many things that are like new or are brand. Sometimes you have things with tags on them just because it didn't work for them, or maybe they're cleaning out someone's home that's moving, or something along those lines. So, all right, what is your best advice for showing warm hospitality to those coming into your home? How do you make it feel like a warm, welcoming place when they walk through the door? If I saw the table that you just described, I would already feel that way. But do you have any other tips?
Well, it's nice to have somebody greeting. That's the ticket. And if I'm in the kitchen, I would prefer someone else do that. Sometimes we would be getting ready. Doug would leave to go pick up his dad. And I would tell the kids, please come early. We're having guests and I'm going to be in the kitchen. So to get my kids on that duty.
I need you to fulfill that job.
And if we're eating outside, I need somebody to be outside to greet people. Show them first where to get a drink.
Sure.
So I had a buffet that I would just, or if we're outside, a whole table set up. Kid drinks, adult drinks. Get yourself a drink.
That's a great idea to have the drinks set out so that while you're busy in your apron getting the last few minute things done, they can already be started.
Yeah, say help yourself to a glass of wine, or there are other drinks over there, that kind of thing. So there you go.
That idea. All right. What is your must-have kitchen item, and where can we find it?
Okay. I brought it.
You did?
I brought it.
Show me.
Okay. So
need to see the evidence.
Yeah. So this is an OXO.
Okay, I love that brand.
Good Grips 7-piece liquid measuring beaker set.
What?
And this is for you.
No! I've never seen this.
Yes.
I have so many things in this brand because I really do love it. It's very durable. It's a good price point.
But you don't have this.
I do not have this. I've never seen it.
You are going to use it now all the time. And
tell me about it.
Well, it's different sized beakers. So how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And they stack together. So the smallest one you can just pour a teaspoon into. You don't have to balance the spoon. The biggest one is a cup. And it measures ounces and tablespoons and everything.
This is
and it's just so handy.
Item.
I use mine constantly. And a friend gave it to me. It was a gift. I had never seen it either.
No.
And so now I like to give that as gifts. And it's on Amazon.
It is a great gift, and it's so
cute
colorful.
and colorful.
I wish y'all could see it. I will post it on my website, comeoverfordinner.com. I do have a spot that has the most recommended kitchen items so that you can actually see them, know what it is. You know, if we talk about it, someone's like, well, I don't know where to find that, or I don't know what that looks like, or is this the right thing? I will post this so you can see it, because I wonder if it's new.
No,
Maybe it's been around
I've had mine for several years.
Okay.
And it still works great. And so when you are you're measuring liquids. It's funny, in our last kitchen, I would just set it in the cupboard so I could just see it while I'm pouring in.
Yes, because you want it eye level.
Yeah, you just want it eye level. It was great. You don't have to do that.
And it's not heavy like glass measuring cups.
No, and it's not like a big metal one or, getting out the Pyrex all the time. No,
I have Pyrex,
great.
but they're I don't have 7 of them,
No,
It's just
and I use my
3.
Pyrex also for lots of things.
Sure, but this is small and handy.
But this is for liquids. Yes. And of course, you do know this trick, hopefully. Let's say you're making muffins and it calls for half a cup of oil and half a cup of honey. Well, you measure your oil first, dump it in, and then when you put the honey in, it just slips right out.
Pours right out.
It just slips right out. If you do it in the other order, it doesn't slip right out.
No, you're using a spoon and you're scraping.
Yeah, so anyway.
Well, how fun. It's funny because people have their different favorite stores that they like to go to and shop. Yeah. Well, where I used to live, in the South, there was a fairly good size Bed Bath & Beyond. And for fun, every now and then I would slip in and look at the kitchen gadgets, and I would especially be looking at all the different OXO.
Oh, yeah.
All the different things they had, and deciding, no, I don't have all of them. Do I really need another spatula?
I know. It's like, well,
yes.
You have
so
to
I have studied
things.
all of their things and thought, do I need that? But I have never seen these. So,
well, the thing is, these are tools.
The tools, and use them
we are in our workshop. We need good tools.
That's true.
And so you need tools for cooking.
And I really feel like for most women, they're where they use the kitchen on a daily basis. They are in there. It's the room used more than anything else. So these tools are definitely...
Yeah, I love my little nesting beakers.
And, because they nest, it takes almost no space in a cabinet.
No.
So,
yeah.
Well...
Enjoy those.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much for joining me today. Oh, do you have any funny stories from hosting over the years? You've had lots and lots of people over. Are there any funny stories you can actually share?
Well, there are some I probably shouldn't.
There's probably some you shouldn't.
But
surely there's one you can.
Well, I don't know. Which one should I tell?
I
could tell you about Dot.
Dot.
She arrived one of those Sabbath dinners where no one was there. Doug had gone to get his dad. It took him about 15, 20 minutes to get him loaded up and wheelchair in the trunk and all that. So I was there by myself and in the kitchen with my apron on. And there's a knock at the door a little early. I go to the door. It's an old friend of ours I haven't seen in a long time, a local person. And he has with him this older woman. And he said, "Hi, Nancy, here's Dot." And I said, Oh, hi, Dot.
Well, hello.
Are you coming to dinner? And she said, yes. And I said, well, come in. And my father-in-law had invited her. She was from Scotland and she was just visiting. And he forgot to tell me.
Good thing you had that extra plate set out.
It was great because the kids, one of our grandsons, Rory, was really interested in Scotland and had learned himself a little bit of, what they used to speak in Scotland. And why can't I think of it?
Well, you know more than I do.
Gaelic.
Okay.
And so they started talking, he chatted her up.
And she knew Gaelic.
Well, a little bit. Not everyone does, but it is their native tongue. But at any rate, it used to be. But at the end of dinner, she thanked me very much and she said, and I'll be back next week. Oh. And so she came every week until
was she in town for like a month or something like that?
Probably.
Okay.
Yeah. And Dot was just a fixture at our Sabbath dinners for a while.
Until she decided to go back to Scotland.
Yeah. So that was funny.
What a fun
It was funny to meet someone named Dot at my door and not be sure what was going on.
Right. Like, well, welcome in, Dot. And
so
who are you?
It was funny, but it was really,
But she was a blessing to the Sabbath dinner.
Absolutely.
How fun for the grandkids, too, because I'm sure she had a great accent.
Oh, my, yes. Yes, and she was quite gregarious and friendly. And
So she just added to
So there's my Dot story.
So if you have the hot tip about setting an extra place, setting at the table, this is for you, because you never know when Dot may show up at your door.
And she may show up again. We'll see.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for joining me. It has been a pleasure to hear all of your wonderful advice from so many years of hosting all the people. Thank you for joining